I'm Chad.Taylor.Psychotherapist, author of It's You, Oh Fuck It's Me. No tips, no fixing, just real conversations. And today I've got Claire. So Claire, who the fuck are you, really? Straight
Oh,
into it.
I am. I am a daughter. I am a mother. I'm a wife. And I am also a counselor. Yeah. And I think probably out of all of those things that I am, the things that are the most true about who I am is I am a mother, probably first, and a wife. And I am a counselor. Like, I think those are the big parts of me. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, for anyone that's read my book, they'll know that you got a bit of a write up in the start. We studied together. And how have you been finding the counselling practice or the counselling journey?
Oh, goodness. It's a funny thing, because when you start out, or when I started out with counseling, it seems like I was under the illusion that it was really about the other people. It was about my clients that I was going to be working with and helping them navigate their lives. But what was really unexpected was the journey that I have been on, kind of like the process of becoming a counselor, which has been really, really interesting. And it's literally for me, it's first the whole like, oh my God, I'm butting into people's lives. And is that okay? Kind of starts there. And who am I to know anything? And then it's like, oh my God, can I actually help them? But where I am now is like this real realization that however much I'm there for them, I'm also actually there for myself. So like working with clients is a journey of self-discovery and looking in the mirror, because there'll be times when a client will be doing and saying something and I'll be like, oh my God, you do that. And it's like, I'm so grateful for that. In a way, it's just like this never-ending therapy of myself journey.
And
Yeah.
are you open enough? Do you say that to a client in session, or is that something
Look, I don't
sensitive?
hide my messedness. So often, especially when it's something really edgy, and especially when I have to share something I'm aware of that's quite confronting for them, that is a time where I'm more likely to say, hey, listen, I am not judging you. Like, this is something I recognize in myself. I do this. You are human. And this is how it's being received by others. It's probably not the most helpful thing to do. So like, it's like I don't want to like take over the whole session and bleed my stuff all over them. But at the same time, I don't go for the whole like, I'm a perfect little therapist here and my life is great and I've got everything together and you're the screwed up one, and I'm going to give you a magic wand. So I try to share appropriately in a way where to make people feel less alone.
Which is really nice to hear. And have you got we'll move on in a minute, but have you got sort of an ideal client for anyone out there listening that sort of thinks they'd like to work with somebody like you? Have you got an ideal client that you like to work with, or a demographic?
Oh, I actually have quite a broad range of what's the perfect client for me because I get something out of a lot. So, like the ones that can be really fun and that I enjoy is like a client who is at the place where they've read your book and started to take some of that, like the realization in of like, oh my God, I'm the creator of my reality and my relationships. And, that really want to lean into what's happening, because that's a wonderful thing, right? Because then we can get right into the crux of it really quickly, and the reason I enjoy it so much is I do a lot of intuitive stuff and a lot of process things, and it has got a spiritual slant to it. And so in a way, when people can work at that level, it's so powerful, and it's like you literally feel like, for me, it's like I'm walking through different realities and potentials, and the person can kind of choose what opens up to them. So that I really enjoy. It's fun. But I also enjoy the other end of the spectrum a lot, where people are like really struggling and have been in a world that's been quite hostile and nobody has received and listened. Like the kind of person who feels completely alone and misunderstood, and just needs another human being to validate their reality. Because change is really difficult while you're surviving or protecting yourself. So like sometimes we just need one person that can listen to ourselves. Like once we be heard and have our stories told and actually validated as real, then we can put down that stuff and say, okay, what can I do now? But to change from a place where you're being attacked is really difficult. So that's the other thing I really enjoy.
Change is really hard, full stop, right? Like
Yeah, it is
change is fucking
difficult.
hard.
It is very difficult.
Really
And
hard.
and for me, like especially I enjoy working with relationships. And the reason being is that if that's where like so much harm starts from. It's like most of us have stories of like growing up in homes that were, difficult, and then how that impacts on who we are today. So it's like for me, if I can just get mum and dad or the caregivers to just kind of minimize that harm that we hand over to our children, that feels so rewarding to me.
And that's great to hear. And where can people find you? Obviously, they'd probably think they can find you in South Africa, although that's not the case.
I actually live in New Zealand. I do work internationally over the internet as well. I work with Zoom. But to find me, if you wanted to make an appointment or reach out, you would have to go to my website.
And I'll link that at the
Yeah,
show notes at the end where people can find Claire.
Yeah, holisticcounselling.co.nz. But yeah.
So I do something on this podcast that the last guest generally leaves something for the next guest. It can be a question, a statement. It can be something that they want to work on themselves. It can be anything. And the last guest was me because it was a solo podcast. And I was talking about authenticity and the cost or the benefits of authenticity. So what I left was, what is the cost to being fully accountable to yourself and fully authentic? And how does that cost you in your life?
Being fully authentic. What's the cost? What an interesting question. Because it's like we're always talking about the cost of not being authentic. So what is the cost of being fully authentic in my life?
What happens when you hear that? What happens to you inside when you hear that?
Well, it's actually an interesting thing because, it's like a therapy session for one here, but it's like where I usually come from in relationships is I'm really concerned about the impact I'm having on other people. I am trying to take a lot of responsibility and accountability for myself. And if I do that too big, it can be quite paralyzing. It would be really hard to take my own side because I'm so worried about being a perpetrator or being unkind to you. So it's the cost of being fully authentic is something that if I really sit with that, it's literally the thing I'm trying to avoid. So when you asked me that, what does fully authentic look like? What I understand that to mean is if I am being fully authentic, it means that I am owning and taking responsibility for my thoughts, feelings, etc. But mostly that it's my job to meet my own, to put my needs forward. So that's the part that comes up. That that's like to be authentic. I have to bring my needs, and it's also like brings up stuff around boundaries, And so it's like, and it's interesting because I've obviously got some stuff there. As soon as you ask that question, okay, this is how it's going to be. I have to show my whole self. And it's interesting. I'm not ashamed of showing my whole self. I'm not afraid that I'm going to be rejected or anything. What I'm afraid of is that I'm going to bring my needs, and then it's going to be I'm demanding from you, or like that you can't do it, or that it's a burden on the other person. So the cost of being fully authentic is that probably the other person won't like me. Like they'll be a bit like, oh, you're a mean. Because it will be, this is my need and I need it to be like this. And if you can't do that, then maybe I can't be here. And so it feels like rejecting of the other person.
And I see that in therapy As partner A might say to partner, or might say to me, I really want partner B to be a lot more open and I want them to share their emotions with me. I never know how they're feeling. And then partner B, through therapy, starts to learn how to do that. In other words, become authentic and not hide behind the mask. And then partner B comes home from work one day and says, oh, I just want to let you know I'm really fucking angry today. I've had this and this and this happen. And then partner A is almost to the point of, well, don't come home here with your fucking anger. Now I'm fucking angry.
Exactly. It's like, I know I said I wanted you to do that, but in reality, it actually suits me when you don't.
And that is where we lead into next about the book, that part of this is why we do what we do. Because I think we try very early on, we try and be authentic. And I think we're almost molded into who the environment wants us to be.
Yeah.
So I guess from the book, you are equally as skilled as me in this field, probably more skilled, I would say. My book's written in a certain way, raw, and we're not going to talk about that because it's about you. What from the book landed for you? What did it bring up in you? What?
I think some very unintended things. So everything you said, Chad, resonated with me, and I knew on certain levels. Where I sit on that spectrum is I take too much accountability, if that's even possible. So I paralyze myself into being really afraid that I'm harming the other person. So that's kind of what happened for me is, so I have to temper that with, you're allowed to take your own side. So that's what happened for me is I flitted into the whole, it's all your fault and you're the bad one again. And then I was, no, Claire, you take too much responsibility. That's not, that's not your story. So that was part of it. But the other part of it is that I was really impressed with your book, and I was really impressed that you had written it and put it out there. And when I read what you had said, and it just resonated with me, and I was like, yep, this is how I believe it is too. And it felt like joining into your reality, and it felt like a familiar, comfortable place. The unintended side effect of it is that it made me have, because it's interesting you're saying that I probably have more experience, but it doesn't matter how long I do this or how good I am at it. At the core, I'm still insecure and, wanting external validation, like recognizing that in myself. So when I read something that sounded familiar and aligned with how I see the world, I was, oh, yeah, so you do know what you're talking about. You're not a complete incompetent loser. Yeah. So, and it was actually really interesting for me to notice how uncomfortable I was and how insecure I was. Yeah.
And I think that was the purpose of the book, was for me to almost bear all and say, hey, look, we're all fucked. I know that's sad. The original name of the book, and we spoke about this previously, was going to be called I'm Fucked, You're Fucked, Why Being Wrong is Foreplay. And then it almost formed into what it formed into. But I suppose, where can you give us an example of where this stuff, but you don't live it? Like, and in, whether it's with family or like, what's a real moment, drop in the therapy language, which is really hard for us to do. Give us a real moment on where you have thought it was the other person, and then kind of mid argument or afterwards or during, you've sort of realized, oh, fuck, you know what? Like, this isn't all him, or this isn't all her, or this isn't all them. And what was that like? And, what do you think they experienced and what did you experience?
I can give you an example from a conversation that was had last week that I spoke to my husband about this morning, actually. And what was happening was that he was struggling with something and he was trying to talk to me about it, which is a new skill that he's learning. And and this happens in other examples as well. I have probably so many examples of this. He tried to speak to me about something and he really struggles to notice his own needs and expressing them. And so when he asked me for something, he said something like, I'm really, really struggling with this. Please, could you help me understand why? And instead of actually responding to him directly with what he had asked of me, what I did instead is I responded by saying, ask me for what you actually want. Okay. And what I thought I was doing, or what I was trying to do, is because I could see what he wanted and I could see the layers below what was going on. And then I was saying this, but you're actually meaning that. So what I heard him saying is, come over here and explain this to me and be my therapist. And the actual answer would have been, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
Because that's not how this relationship is. But I didn't want to reject him. I didn't want him, because he's already vulnerable. I didn't want to, distance from him. So what I thought I was doing was pulling him closer by saying, try again. I'm wanting to hear what you really want. It's okay. You can tell me. But what I realized after the fact, and it was really uncomfortable. And this happens so often. It's annoying, actually. Is I realized that he has this feeling like he's got a fear that I'm going to reject him. And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what you did in that moment. You were trying to avoid rejecting him, but then you did. So what I mean is, what I had noticed is that I was rejecting reality. So he asked me something and I said, no, I don't want that. Try again. And so what I was doing is I was saying, I don't like this. Like, this is like almost like a blinker. I don't choose this reality, so I'm going to give it back to you. But also what I noticed is that I was gaslighting him as well. He was telling me what he wanted, what he knew he wanted. And I was saying, no, that's not what you want. I mean, what the hell is that? That's really
being
not okay.
human. That's being
I know.
fucking,
And so
being fucking
I had
human.
the best intentions, but I literally, I gaslighted him. I was, no, that's not what you want. And then as I went even more into that and just really sat with that flippant discomfort, I was just, that is such an act of violence, really. Like, to be telling somebody that you know better than they do. And
Not
then,
uncommon. Not uncommon, right? Not uncommon in
and
a
then the final
relationship.
thing that really landed for me is that his fear of being rejected by me is literally happening in micro, unperceptible, like it's happening continuously. Yeah. He's getting that feedback of, yeah, no, try again, try again, try again. And so he's trying really hard to do something and he doesn't know the right way. And I'm making it clear that there actually is a right way. So it's true. And when I told him, I did say to him, hey, actually, I need to apologize to you. I keep telling you I'm not rejecting you, but actually I've realized I am. I am rejecting you in micro ways over and over all the time. He got really emotional and upset because his body was like, finally, oh my God, it is true. Because I actually said to him, it's true. It is happening. That has been happening. I validate your reality. It's true. I can see that this is how I've been doing it.
Yeah, and for people out there listening, this is a tough conversation, right? This is almost really doing a small part of a therapy session online. And I just want to ask, do you think that made you closer, or do you think it made you further away after that?
I mean, how can it can only bring you closer. If all he can see is my perfection and his brokenness from him, there's no way that I feel safe for him to come close to. He doesn't feel safe to get it wrong then. I'm sure that everybody is aware that if you just take a step back, with relationships, they're so complex and interlocked, and I don't do that out of, we set up these dynamics and we have history and all these things. So I had to resist in that moment when I acknowledged how I was contributing to the dynamic and how I was creating that in him. I had to resist the part of me that wanted to defend why I do that. Because he's also pulled me into that relationship. He has contributed to setting it up. But the more things we can own and admit to, it disarms us in a way. It's the best chance we have of meeting each other without our weapons.
It's freedom, right?
Because it's like, if I say to you, I can own these things and I will drop my attack, or I'll acknowledge how I'm doing something to you, however subtle, he then can stop protecting against that one thing. Which allows me to reach him just a little bit. We can reach each other because there's less stuff in between us.
Yeah. And because I like to not leave with tips and fixing, we're actually going to leave it there, which is going to be really hard for you.
I'm actually learning to be quite okay with it, to let life unfold. Holding the tension is such a wonderful thing to do, I believe, because I know as soon as I try to fix it, all my stupid defense strategies are going to come on board. And
And we
if I can
can't
just,
fix it.
if I can
We're full
hold
of
the
shit.
discomfort,
We're full of
something
shit. If
beautiful.
we think
I
we
know.
can fix it, we're full of shit, all of us,
Yeah.
including me.
So
So
I'm
what's
learning
one
to just live
line?
with it.
What's one line or one sentence, statement, question you're going to leave for the next guest? Just being mindful, know how conscious you are. No teaching, just something for the next guest to be hit with.
Okay. And it's something you and I kind of touched on earlier in this chat. The question I have is, what do you blame your partner for, but secretly it suits you?
Okay. What do you blame your partner for, but secretly it suits you?
Yeah.
If anyone out there, I'm not going to be DMing comments and all that bullshit. I'm not a life coach. I'm not really that interested in this. It's more just I'm doing this because I love it. And we see people like me and Claire and my partner Sophie and all of us see this day in, day out. So if that resonates with you, maybe write it in your journal. Maybe talk to your partner about it. Even if you just listen to the last 30 seconds of this podcast with your partner, say, where the fuck do we do this? So we're going to close there. Thanks for coming, Claire. I'm going to put in the show notes where people can find Claire, website, email address, and we're going to leave it there. Thanks, Claire.